So here in the United States, we have the greatest entrepreneurs when it comes to starting these biotech companies. We have amazing scientists who lead the world in medical discovery, and we have investors who are willing to take extraordinary risks in these little companies, despite the fact that 9 out of 10 times they fail. But all of that together doesn't serve the needs of the patient unless the public policy environment is conducive to their success. And so we at BIO are largely about making sure that the policy that's adopted in Washington and the 50 state capitals and around the world is going to hasten innovation as opposed to dampening the incentive to invest in innovation. So the biotech ecosystem is really interesting. Sometimes it starts out with NIH-funded research that takes place in universities, and sometimes that spins out into intellectual property, into patents, and little companies. Entrepreneurs will start, or maybe sometimes physicians will start little companies. And as they progress and as they develop their molecule that they think is going to cure disease, eventually that company may become of interest to a larger pharmaceutical company. The large pharmaceutical companies very often rely upon the little companies to create the innovation. And the smaller companies rely upon the big pharma companies to take the process to the next step, either to the big phase 3 clinical trials that the small companies couldn't afford, or to commercializing the products in the US and around the world. So the small companies rely upon the big companies, and the big companies rely upon the small companies. And so we create conventions and conferences where they can all meet and put together deals, and it all works to the benefit of the patient. Science is really galloping. So we now have cell therapy, and we have gene therapy, and we have immunotherapy, and we have CRISPR-Cas9 where we're editing genes. So the science is changing rapidly, and the entrepreneurs are following that science to create cures and treatments for diseases that we couldn't even think about curing not very long ago. We also have great incentives in this country to invest in orphan diseases. And so you'll see a lot of people working in this rare disease space, because we recognize, Congress recognized a long time ago, that with small numbers, with diseases that only have a small number of patients, you couldn't get your money back unless you had certain tax incentives and other incentives to make it all work. And that has driven a lot of investment into these rare diseases.